Trump administration claims that they are not launching strikes inside Venezuela, but also the press should stop asking so many questions. Just what kind of weird stuff is going on inside the Pentagon, and can anybody really find out about it? I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. Let's talk about this weird one. Okay, so first, there was a story that dropped, I'm going to say, a day or two ago, saying that the Pentagon and the White House were planning on strikes inside of Venezuela. Now, this isn't exactly a secret, given that the president is literally unable to maintain any kind of close hold on anything ever for any reason, essentially, because he literally said, we're preparing strikes on land next. Now, reportedly, the administration's drawn up a secret list of targets in Venezuela that the U.S. could strike upon order of the president, which is, I want to be clear, not all that controversial in and of itself. In fact, the U.S. maintains a war plan to engage in military action against any nation that could be seen as even remotely hostile. And the idea is, of course, that you don't want to only look at a hostile nation once you realize you're in hostilities with them, right? You always want to have a plan just in case. But the fact is that this combined with the fact that the president is actively striking what he says are Venezuelan boats off Venezuelan waters or whatever, and that says that Venezuela is totally full of drug traffickers, that these targets probably will include ports, airports, and other sites run by Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro, but also used by drug cartels to transit narcotics. Classified target list weirdly enough, briefed only to Senate Republicans earlier this week, cutting out Senate Democrats, along with a massive buildup of military assets in the region, including 10,000 troops, has fueled speculation that Trump could order those strikes at any moment. Military sources said they did not expect an imminent attack, and Trump himself told reporters he hasn't made a decision, which is very much like the reality show person we that we've come to know, right? This is not a way, by the way, to seriously run a military operation. You don't simply wait to the last minute to make a decision. Generally, you make these decisions prior to. The only exception is, of course, you're waiting for your enemy to take a specific action one way or another. For example, again, in the lead up to the Iraq War or the Afghan War, President Bush told the Taliban in Afghanistan, hey, if you turn over bin Laden and his top lieutenants, we won't invade your country. The Taliban said, go F yourself, and in the U.S. went. So sometimes those decision points, again, are not in your entire control, but generally just sort of arbitrarily being the decider is just reality show slop. And some analysts say that there are several indications that a strike may happen within 72 hours. Last time Trump ordered a large-scale military attack in June, a stealth bomber strike on 2 Iranian nuclear sites, White House press secretary told the public 2 days prior that Trump would make a decision on military action within 2 weeks. So it's tough to believe this sort of thing. But what's even stranger is that Trump himself is saying, well, actually, I'm not even considering strikes within Venezuela, despite literally like 3 days ago, or at least up to a week ago, saying the exact opposite. Again, it's pretty dumb and not exactly subtle. But there's a bunch of weird shit here. Personally, one is that Secretary of State Rubio dismisses report that the U.S. is poised to strike Venezuela as a fake story. Again, this is insane because there's a carrier strike group built up in the Caribbean. There's been brigades of army troops pulled from Europe to focus on the Pacific and South American region. And you have the President of the United States saying we're looking at land next. And so it's really hard to believe Marco Rubio when he says, your sources with knowledge of the situation saying that we're poised to strike Venezuela, that's fake. Okay. It's not true, Trump said. It's total fake news. Again, even as the Gerald Ford in the Caribbean and the carrier strike group accompanying it continues to hit these military boats, But what's funny, at least to me, is that immediately after saying, guys, your sources don't know what they're talking about. But also, the White House immediately went and restricted access for journalists, restricting them only to a single room of the White House, which makes reporting and simply getting a quote from any other administration official impossible. It's effectively banning journalists from accessing the press room without a prior appointment, which of course will only happen if there is a designated, supervised, coached meeting, citing the need to potentially protect sensitive material, which is stupid. Again, you don't need that. Like, the laws around classified information sharing exist for a reason. And this is, of course, just they literally are saying officials are now routinely engaging with sensitive material. And in order to protect such material, they don't use the word classified or secret. Sensitive. Sensitive is different. Sensitive just means I wish it didn't get talked about, right? So it's hard to believe that these are fake, because again, if it was a fake story, then you wouldn't need to restrict press freedom, because clearly the press wasn't the problem, right? If you're like, oh, yeah, it's a fake story, your source doesn't know what they're talking about, but also never talk to that source again, well, that's stupid. You just said they just made it up, right? So why not talk to that source? It's all very stupid. It's all unbelievably stupid. Now, I want to point out, as I often have, that right now, based on the current authorization for use of military force, there is no statutory, any land strikes against Venezuela, any strikes against these drug boats are in fact not in compliance with the authorization for use of military force. As we point out, the only currently authorized military action is the AUMF from 2001, September 18th, 2001, authorizing the United States Armed Forces to go after those responsible for the September 11th attacks. And the exact wording is that the president is authorized to use force against nations, organizations, or persons he determines planned, authorized, committed, or aided the terror attacks that occurred on September 11, 2001, or harbored organizations in order to prevent any future attacks of international terrorism against the United States by nations, organizations, or persons. So now Trump's saying, well, technically they're narco-terrorists. It's fairly clear from the language of this that they're referring to, again, 9/11 style terror attacks. Dealing drugs is not a terror attack. I don't know what else to tell you. It is a for-profit enterprise in violation of U.S. law. And what should trouble you about this is by saying, hey, if you violate U.S. law, you're a terrorist. What that does is actually loops up a bunch of other things into terrorism that you may not like. If you're a conservative, do you think this same logic of being like, hey, you're doing something in violation of U.S. law that harms U.S. people, therefore you're a terrorist? By that logic, if you think climate change is real, then the president, a future left-wing president, might be authorized to declare an oil company or a person who doesn't recycle to be a terrorist and charges them accordingly. That's the sort of legal authority, if you allow the Trump administration to play this game, to say a violation of U.S. law is the same thing as terrorism, that's the power you're granting to the president. So you should be reluctant to do this thing. And don't get me wrong, it gets tested a lot. But again, it's one thing to say, hey, Biden administration targeting al-Shabaab militants, right? Okay, sure. Like, this is just the final, most logical extreme. Yeah, al-Shabaab probably planning terror attacks, definitely planning terror attacks in Somalia for sure. And those, but is it against the American people? I don't know, dude. It's a tough one. It's probably not all that legal, right? Now, Maduro seems to believe he is facing imminent strikes, certainly, because he's asking, of course, the Russian military for assistance, right? Trying to get someone to help him. And as we point out, again, given it seems weird that an enemy of the United States would turn to someone who Trump says is a good friend and someone he has a great relationship with. That's not the handshake of someone who's a great friend of the Trump administration. Fascinating, right? It's just a fascinating turn of events to see, again, someone who Trump says he's a great friend of mine helping out America's enemies. Is it possible that Trump is badly miscalculating? Yes. Is it possible that this entire anti-Maduro thing is just a bunch of bullshit that the administration that has no sort of grounding in other administration priorities or philosophies? Also, yes. Anyway, guys, hit subscribe. Thanks to Sergei Zinchenko, Thomas Anderson, William Alexenko, Georgiev, AL90, and all of our Lieutenant tier members. Couldn't do it without you guys. Become a member at Combat Vet News to get access to uncensored combat videos and support the channel so that I can continue to offer you uncensored, unvarnished content, even if it is negative or if sponsors don't really like it. Thanks. See you in the next one. Cheers.